Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. We have a special guest, and the timing of it is great. It's the great James White, longtime Patriots running back. The legend himself will join us. And, you know, if you didn't know it, James is from South Florida. James grew up in Fort Lauderdale. James is a Miami Heat fan. And I bet James doesn't know it, but he's going to be talking to one of the biggest Jimmy Butler fans there is. Yeah, I've been following the Celtics since 1977, following them close. But I don't know if I've ever seen a player who can play with the will and raise the level of all the boats with his own particular tide like Jimmy Butler. So we're going to talk a little bit of Celtics, Heat with James White. We're also going to talk about the third down back / sub back position in the Patriots offense and how they can get that right, and plus much more. But first, let's bring in James. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, Tom. Can't complain. How are you?
I am tremendous. You know why I'm really good? Because I don't have two kids who are, how old are your kids again, James?
3 and 2. So
how many months apart, James?
13 months apart.
Everybody be quiet. It's Monday night. And if those kids wake up, there's going to be problems.
Yeah, for myself, yeah, definitely be problems. Not for my wife, but for me.
Exactly. Hey, so Heat fan, give me your quick appraisal of this series. Should the Heat just be happy to be there?
A part of me wants to say we should be happy to be there, but we have a great coach, Eric Spoelstra. Jimmy Butler raised his level of play. You know, with Tyler Hero going down, so he's, you know, manning a lot of the offense. We have a lot of veteran players. We don't have the youth that the Celtics have, but we have a lot of veteran guys that, you know, some guys that have won championships on the team. So it's going to be a tough matchup. I mean, it's hard for me to say. I think the Celtics will win the series, but the Heat aren't just going away like,
no,
you know, the sweep or 5 games. I think it'll go 6 or 7. Just the way the Miami Heat, they play everybody tough. So it's going to be a fun one to watch.
Jimmy is the X factor. Can you think of one player? Now, I don't know how well. Do you know Jimmy Butler at all?
No, I never got a chance to meet him.
All right. As you watch him play, is there anything about his competitiveness that reminds you of any Patriots teammates that you had?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say he's like on Tom Brady's level, like as a player, but when the playoffs come around, he turns into a different player. He kind of reinvents himself, and I said he needs to score. He's going to score 40 points. He has to lock down the best player. He's going to go out there and take on that task. It may not be the entire game, but when it's in crunch time, he's going to be the guy, you know, guarding Jason Tatum, or Jaylen Brown if they're the hot hand. So it's just been fun to watch. You know, honestly, once we got him a few years ago, I mean, I didn't think we, you know, would be that much better of a basketball team, but he's elevated us. He's took us to, you know, a championship, didn't win, and made it to Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago, and here we are back again. And this is the year I probably never would have expected to be in this position right here.
Last year was ridiculous. I mean, they were not nearly as talented as the Celtics, and they came that far with the 3 at the buzzer by Jimmy. And like he pulled up, and I didn't hate it. I know he's not a 3-shooting guy all the time, but I understood why he did it. He's like, okay, might as well try and throw the dagger right now.
Yeah, I definitely live with that shot. I don't have any complaints because he makes that everybody's cheering. He's the greatest player ever. You miss it, then why'd you take that shot? Just comes with the territory. But I think they're probably a little, you know, overmatched in this series. But like I said, it's a 7-game series. It's gonna be tough. They can steal one in Boston out of these first 2 games. I think that'll make a huge statement.
That has to be what they're looking for. Last question. Last basketball question. Did you go to a lot of Celtics games while you were up here? You did, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been to a bunch of them. I went to one of the games when the Heat played the Celtics a few years ago in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Heat got blew out. So that was I definitely have to try and get to one of these games again. Hopefully the Heat don't get blown out if I show up again.
Well, come on up here. Come on up here and we'll go here, all right?
Let's do it.
Okay, I just called a quick 20-second timeout, came back, and I asked James, I said, are you down in Florida or are you up here? He goes, I'm up here. No, never mind. So it'll be an easy shot for you to go over and watch the Heat get demolished. What do you think of the moves your New England Patriots have made this offseason, really beginning with Billy O'Brien coming in.
I think the Billy O bringing him back, I think it's huge. Obviously, the offense, had a down year. The last year, had they been able to score just a few more points, they probably won a lot more games based off the way the defense had played last season. But I think Billy O will bring that discipline back, that accountability back, from the quarterback position to offensive line, running back, receivers. I think the guys who can go and show they are reliable on a day-to-day basis will be the guys that are playing, week in and week out. And I think that'll be very important. Just get back to those finer details, the fundamentals. I think I never got coached by him. He looks like a hard-nosed football coach. He's like a old school football coach. Doesn't really take too much stuff. I mean, I don't know. I haven't interacted with him too much, so I can't speak to that in a sense. But just from what I've seen and competing against him when he was with the Texans, when he was with Penn State, I played in my senior year at Wisconsin. So he's a very good football coach. I think he'll demand the best out of the players that are in that room. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you about that. You mentioned on the details, you mentioned discipline on the little things, holding people accountable. And the next question I had here was, what troubled you most about the way the offense performed? And I think just as a consumer and a analyst expert, whatever you want to call us, I was stunned by the situational inefficiency that I would see, the little mistakes. And I said, this is not characteristic of what we've seen. Was that the same for you as a former player?
It is the very uncharacteristic mistakes that you would see, especially in the red zone. We are typically known as a really good red zone offense. Obviously, I don't put it all on Matty P and Joe Judge. It's on the players as well because they're not executing. They put the plays in. Players got to go out there and execute to the best of their ability. I mean, obviously, this isn't a great play call. It's not going to work, but
it's doomed.
I think it would be like here and there. There'd be players just messing the plays up, and then sometimes there'd be some bad play calls. And I mean, you can't have that that 50-50 imbalance right there. It's not going to lead to any good. So I think everybody just has to come back this season, look themselves in the mirror, and new offense going in, find ways to get better, find ways to improve. Show this new coach what you're willing to do on a day-to-day basis, to help this team win football games. I think it'll be great for them. I think they'll have a very underrated offense.
I do too.
I've kind of said it before. They don't have the quote unquote high-profile names as all the other people within the conference, but they have the best coach, in my opinion. Which I mean, he is in the division, which I think that's the most important thing. You have all the players you want. If you don't have the right coach in place to allow the players to be themselves and go out there and execute and have the right game plan week in and week out, doesn't honestly matter. So I think Billy O and Coach Bill Belichick is a great matchup again. I think it'll allow for this team to be a surprising football team.
James, if you could go up to Mac and put your arm around him and give him one sentence of advice for 2023, what would it be?
Just move forward. I mean, obviously everybody's going to bring up last season and what they saw. Some people are going to be one Zappy to be the starting quarterback, but just move forward, put your blinders on, come in the same way you did, your rookie season, put in the work, earn that trust of your teammates once again. I think everybody in the locker room who's got an opportunity to be around him or play with him knows what type of player he can be. And I think if he just goes out there and earns the trust of his teammates once again, I think it'll be just fine.
Do you think he has to re-earn it? I mean, it was a difficult year for him. You could see it, and he sucked it up for a long time. He did suck it up for a long time, and then he melted down a little bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't think I guess I shouldn't really say re-earn the trust. I think just kind of go out there and show them, in a sense. It's like, I think they all trust him, but you have to go out there and show it and practice and show it, week in and week out, during the game week. Because otherwise, obviously, they got a little taste of somebody else who's behind them. And that's kind of what we're this generation now. Everybody's looking for, what's the next right. Best thing. I mean, Zap played like 2 games or whatnot, and they saw a few flashes of something good, and they're like, "Oh, I need some more of that." But
give me more Zap.
They haven't seen a full season of Zap, so they don't really know. And they put Zap in there, and he may not necessarily be ready. They be calling for Mac. So I think Mac is the guy. I think he'll come in confident. This upcoming season, I think he's the guy that'll lead them to the most victories they could possibly get.
It's funny you mentioned that because we were on TV tonight. We're talking about Jason Tatum. and how it solidifies him in the stratosphere of Boston sports, what happened on Sunday in the Game 7. And, is that his leg? And I said, but wait, do you know that 90% of New England was ready to run the guy out of town on a rail before the fourth quarter on Friday?
Yeah.
So we can't pretend that didn't happen and everyone's just holding them close to their bosom now. That really happened. So we can't pretend that didn't happen. And it's the same thing with Mac, I think, in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, people won't forget the bad for sure, but when you go out, if you go out there and perform, really well this season, I think it'll be easy for that stuff to, your second season to kind of be put to bed if you go out there and perform well for, this upcoming season and for the rest of your career. I think he could be the franchise quarterback for this team. But so you just gotta earn that trust of your teammates, the fans, and everybody kind of once again, the media as well. I know a lot of media kind of think he's not, the greatest quarterback because he doesn't have, the strongest arm. He doesn't have whatever, can't run and all that stuff. He's more athletic than you think. He can make all the throws. Doesn't look as flashy as some of the other guys, but it doesn't really matter if the guy can get the ball to where it needs to be. He can make the checks. He can do all the things you need to do as a quarterback. It doesn't really matter how it looks.
And using the guys around you is so vital. And I think the Patriots are deeper than most people think. But one place where I look at their team as lacking a little bit is a complementary player for Ramondre. Obviously, you had to retire because of your injury. You would have been, Ty Montgomery also would have been a nice compliment. He got injured. So Ramondre carried the load on first, second, and third down. Damian Harris was injured too. It felt like he carried a really heavy load, Ramondre. Is the team missing a James White type, a Shane Vereen, a Kevin Falk, a Danny Woodhead, the guy who can be that outlet and the smart guy to depend upon and not have your first and second down back doing so much heavy lifting?
I think it will help. Obviously, there's a lot thrown on, Mondre's plate last season. I don't think he was necessarily expected to be playing 80, 90% of the snaps most of the games. And, but he got better and better as the year went on with it. He got in better shape, but eventually he got hurt and whatnot. But I think if that's the role where they see him see fit this upcoming season, I think he'll be well prepared and ready to go for it. But I think it would help a little bit if they can find a guy who can carve out that niche to be the third down / sub back, whether it's, Ty Montgomery, whether it's Pierre Strong, whether it's James Robinson, one of those guys. If you can find a guy who can kind of be a mismatch and a guy who, other defenses, the coaches have to game plan for, I think I think it'll bode well for the offense because obviously the defense has to adjust for what running back may be in the game. They can't just call whatever defense. Like say Ty Montgomery becomes a third down back. They gotta call a different defense maybe if he comes into the game versus everybody just being just a guy. And then they just call the regular defense. You're not necessarily worried about a running back threat. But I think Mondre is becoming that threat. And he can be that threat. He can be the guy who's out there for all three downs. He just have to continue to improve at it, and I think he will because watching him last year during training camp for a little bit of time that I was there, I said each week just winning more one-on-one routes, whether it's on the outside, whether it's from the backfield. He's just getting more and more comfortable at it, and I know Bill has a lot of confidence in him, and I think Billy O is obviously a guy who's kind of one of the guys who started this whole thing with the third down running back thing. So I think he'll work with him, and I'm sure he'll work with all the guys to figure out which guy can kind of be in that role. But to me, it'll probably be Ty Montgomery to start it off, in my opinion, because he was kind of in that role before he got hurt, the first game last year.
Yep.
And then I'm sure they want Pierre Strong to kind of turn into that guy.
What do you like about him?
Obviously he's an explosive player. He had the fastest time as a running back for the combine, last year. And he's well coached. He's pretty reserved like myself. So I'm sure he took a lot of the coaching last year, had a kind of a similar rookie season to myself. He didn't play too much. He had a few games. He probably played more than I did. He played some meaningful snaps kind of towards the end of the year, had a touchdown in there. So I think he'll come into this year with a lot of confidence. You learn a lot in your rookie season, from, play calling to routes to pass protection. There's a lot thrown at you. It's the longest year of football of your life, but I think you have to find ways to improve and show that you're a guy that can help the team win. I'm sure he wants to do that. You don't want to be sitting back there watching on the sideline every single week like I had to do my rookie year. I know I wanted to come out there in OTAs at this point and kind of set a standard for myself to show the team what I could do, and hopefully it was enough so they could throw me out there on the field.
Hey, the NBA playoffs are here, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/NSBO right now. Place a $5 bet, and you'll get an instant $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. This is what's great about betting on FanDuel. Great promotions like this every day. You got a safe and secure app. You get paid instantly, and you can get down on your favorite bets every single day you see something. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com/NSBO and sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet your first $5. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hope is here. GamblingHelplineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. 21 plus in present and select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, or Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit www.mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming or visit www.1800gambler.net in West Virginia.
I don't think people really remember and appreciate necessarily who are not living it all the time and paying close attention to it, the rise that you went through. 2014 to 2015, a bigger load on your plate. And I remember the playoff game in Denver. I mean, it was such a tough game for Tom to get any time. They used you in every capacity. And again, he just didn't have any time. He was getting pummeled. But you were out there running routes 40 yards downfield. You were running around the backfield. And then by 2016, it was, this is the guy. This is the next Faukian type of player. And you were able to, play at that level. Why were you able to so drastically improve? It's not just learning it. Was there physical aspects of it that made you and helped you improve?
I wouldn't say it was anything physical. It's just, I always had the confidence to go out there and do it. It wasn't anything like learn the play, but I had all the plays, I had all protections, just actually being confident in doing it out there on the practice field, whether it was training camp, whether it was, preseason game, whatever it was, I had to go out there and prove it to everybody on the team, to the coaching staff, offensive coordinators, to build that, I could be a guy that could be relied upon. And I said, it started from OTAs. I wanted to win every single one-on-one rep. I wanted to win every single 3-on-3 rep. I wanted to be the guy who can catch all the passes in the 2-minute drill, help the team move the ball down the field. And I wanted to show my growth. I wanted to be able to pass block. When we put the pads on, we did one-on-one pass protect. I wanted to show that I could do all that stuff. And even still, like I had a great, like OTAs training camp, and even still, Dion was, kind of the featured guy coming into that year. Dion, LG, Brandon, but they were still, the guy. And we had Travaris Cadet at that point. He was on the roster. He didn't do pretty much like any of OTAs. He hurt his hamstring or training camp or whatever it was. He still made the roster until like week 2. I know he played a little bit, and then, it didn't quite go well. Then they ended up releasing him. But I still didn't play the kind of almost halfway through that year until Dion got hurt. So even with all that, like I said, they still didn't necessarily throw me out there. So once I got a little taste of being on the field, I wanted to, still prove myself out on, on the game field. And I feel like me and Tom built a pretty good rapport I feel like we had a good rapport ever since my rookie year, but the coaches didn't necessarily believe that. So coming into that year, I feel like we built a rapport during OTAs. And then once the games kind of rolled around, I feel like we just had a really good connection. I feel like we were on the same page in a sense. And I feel like he just kept looking for me more and more and more as the year went on. And that's kind of how I went from there.
I mean, that's everything, I guess. Is like you can coach and you can call the plays as much as you want. But if when you're in the huddle where you're breaking the huddle, you feel as if you have that chemistry and kismet with your teammate, and you know that he's going to rely on you, and he's pretty good. All you got to do is do your job and put your hands up, kind of.
Yeah. I think the chemistry between, as a sub back, the chemistry between you and the quarterback has to be very, very important. Obviously, you have to protect him first and foremost when it comes to that, but you're kind of his outlet if nobody's open down the field, if a play's not necessarily designed for you. And I always wanted to be a viable option in that sense. And I kind of tried to find whatever windows possible to make sure there was no defender necessarily close by. There was a open lane where Tom could find me at any point if he decided to look my way. I think that's very important. Even like the year I got hurt, I feel like me and Mac were kind of building that. I know it's only like 2 games, but we were kind of starting to build that connection. I felt like we were kind of ascending. Then I got hurt, but then the rest is history from that. But
it's interesting because the 2020 season and Cam Newton came in late. He didn't have the whole off season. I think he busted his ass to try to do a good job for the team.
He doesn't get a lot of credit, man.
He accounted for a lot of touchdowns. People forget. He threw for 8, but he ran for 12.
Yeah.
He had 800 yards rushing. He did as much as he could, but it wasn't in his arsenal to really use you as much. So you kind of had a Cam year, and then you could see it with Mac. It was coming along. And I wanted to ask you about that. You had an 8-year career. 14 was kind of a redshirt year. You still had mileage on the tires, one would have thought. You probably hoped. How hard was it for you to say this isn't going to work?
It was tough. I got hurt. I don't know what happened at the time when I got hurt. I just knew I couldn't get up off the ground.
Well, can you take us through that if it's not too painful? It's part of the story.
It was a third down run against the Saints. It seemed like a regular tackle to me. I run the ball, got the first down. I guess my knee was kind of across my body. A defender laying on my back. They had the wrong angle. My knee was on the ground. He kind of I don't know how to describe it. Kind of
out of the socket.
Went out of the socket and back into the socket. And I couldn't get up off the ground from that point. I didn't know what in the world had happened at that point. But getting to the hospital and whatnot, they said your hip, this and that. Woo was kind of similar to what Bo Jackson had when he got hurt. Not exactly the same, but
it's
similar.
Dislocated. I remember I just finished the book, the Bo Jackson book. It dislocated, popped back in, and then you run the risk of all the bleeding, correct?
Yeah. So I had surgery the next day. I ended up doing rehab for a little bit. I didn't know the extent of the injury in the sense whether I'd be able to come back or not. But as the year went on doing rehab, I became a little bit more confident. I was a free agent that year as well, so I didn't know what that whole market was going to be like for me, whether, Bill want me or anyone else will want me. Obviously, I knew it would be for very, very cheap coming off the injury, injury that I came off of. But fortunately enough, Bill called me up probably right before free agency opened up and asked me whether I'm still planning on playing football that year. By that point, I was confident enough to, give it a go. And I was like, yeah. And we worked things out. I remember my agent when Bill kind of sent the offer sheet and whatnot, and we sent the NFLPA, and they were like, "Oh, he needs to sign that deal right away," because it was actually really good money for myself coming off the injury that I was coming off. But that was kind of just a sign of respect between myself and Bill. So I was very confident at that point. Got there for OTAs, and just after a week or two of workouts, it's kind of hard for me to walk and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't even got tackled or anything, so that's a whole nother thing. I couldn't imagine myself being able to go out there, take the hits, even though I try to avoid as many hits as possible, not take too many tough blows. But the injury that has kind of a freak accident probably doesn't happen to many people, but just didn't have the confidence enough to feel like I was going to go out there and be the same player that I was used to being and performing the way that I wanted to perform. And I feel like that would have been hard for me to deal with, hard for my teammates to watch, probably hard for the coaching staff to see. I don't want to be a guy that people are watching man, that guy needs to go sit his tail down somewhere. He's not quite moving the same. So it was hard for me because obviously I made my own decision, walking away from the game. But at the same time, I feel like almost in a sense I was forced to walk away because I wasn't going to be, playing at the same level that maybe I necessarily felt like I could play at.
Sounds almost identical to the story that Julian told a year earlier.
Yeah.
With his knee, I couldn't practice. If I couldn't practice, I couldn't compete because it hurt too much and I was going to be diminished. And did you guys compare notes at all? Did you talk about that?
No, we didn't. I mean, we have a little bit different injuries, but kind of similar. It's just like you can't practice, you can't, lift and move the way that you want to on a practice field, and there's no chance you can really go out there and compete on a game day and play at the same level that you once were. I just think it's just hard, but at the same time, you gotta be real with yourself at some point and face the facts, and it's a tough pill to swallow for sure.
What was your reaction to Bill Belichick's comments at the retirement ceremony that you guys had?
It's just been a great, really honor for me to have you on our team, to have your leadership, your role model for all of us, not just the other players, but honestly for the coaches, your work ethic, toughness, commitment to the team, something for all of us to emulate and strive to match. And just want to wish you the very, very best going forward. You've had a tremendous career. Very proud to have coached you, very proud of the achievements and accomplishments that you've made for the organization and for what you personally have done for me. Sincerely mean that, and we'll miss you, but we'll never forget the contributions and the standard that you set for us, and that will live on, and those banners that hang up there wouldn't be hanging there without you. So appreciate all you've done for me, the organization, and for our football team.
I mean, it was cool, man. Like, getting to play for one of the greatest coaches of all time, and for them to even throw me a retirement ceremony in itself was definitely an honor, because I myself don't necessarily care for things like that. I would just retire and just disappear into the abyss, but it's definitely an honor. He said some kind words, said some real words, especially about like my combine numbers and whatnot. They weren't flashy, which they weren't. And I said, that's like myself. I'm not a flashy player. I feel like I was just a guy that, puts my best foot forward and just gets the job done. I feel like the best part of my game is probably my mental. I feel like that's what gave me my edge compared to some of the other guys, in my opinion. Just, knowing the plays, knowing what my team is looking for from me, knowing what the quarterback is looking for from me, and just being there, being available. Obviously, I always pride myself on being, healthy and available for the team, obviously, until the injury that happened, and happened to be an injury that I couldn't really come back from, which stinks, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
How's your hip now?
I mean, it feels a lot better now, obviously, not playing the game, not doing, necessarily the workouts that you need to do as far as, getting prepared and ready for a football season. But I feel really good at this point. I feel a lot better when you're not getting tackled and squatting 400 pounds and all.
So what are you doing for competition? Softball, fishing, golf? I mean, you got to do something. Basketball?
Seeing which kid I can get in the bed for. No.
That's a very good point.
No,
I forget. It's not all fun and games.
No. I'm not really doing too much right now. I love bowling. I haven't went bowling in a long time, obviously, because of my kids, but I got to get back on to that. Give me a bowling ball and hit the lane some, and maybe get in a bowling league or something like that.
See, that's awesome. See, you and Mayo, he's got that Mayo Bowl thing. I think you took that over afterwards, right?
Yeah.
See,
I love bowling. Me and my cousins, my friends used to be up before I had kids. We used to be out all night till the bowling alley would close bowling. It's so much fun.
That's the best. All right. Hey, now it's time for irrelevant questions. Just a few ridiculous questions that we're going to roll through. And then we're going to let you go before the kids wake up. First question, James. Do you still have the Super Bowl truck?
No, I don't. I had it for a little bit. It was a Ford F-150. That's not really my speed. Being a smaller guy, smaller stature. Feel like that truck's too big for myself to be driving around.
Dude, that's a collector's item, though. Did you just take it and trade it, or did you?
Yeah, I just traded it. Like I said, I'm always gonna remember that game.
You could have put that thing on eBay.
I mean, I could have, but that's That's
All
not
right.
really my
It's not you. It's not you. It's not your thing. Everything doesn't have to be a money grab, Tom. All right. How many times have you watched Super Bowl 51? 51? 51.
I mean, I probably have never really actually sat down and watched it through and through. Like if it's on, I probably catch it probably like halfway or so. And I mean, obviously I've seen the highlights millions of times with social media and everything, but one day I got to sit there and just watch the game through and through, but never actually sat there and watched it. But anytime I bump into somebody, especially in the Massachusetts area, that's obviously the first thing that they bring up, and rightfully so. It's a game that you play. The Super Bowl is a game that everybody's tuned in watching, and I just so happen to have had one of my best performances at that point in time. So of course that's going to be the thing that everybody brings up.
Yeah, you are a beast, an absolute beast. This brings me now to the number 28. And this is a segment of the program that's called, Hey, what's your number? Which is basically an explanation of the number that you wore while with the Patriots. And you were number 28. Why were you number 28?
That was the number the coaches gave.
Figured.
Yeah, that was the number that was in my locker when I first got there. You know, I honestly thought about changing it my rookie year. I thought about changing. I really wanted 20, but that number's retired. And then I was thinking about switching it to 21. I was thinking about switching it to 21 at the time, my rookie year, but Malcolm Butler wanted to switch to 21. He had a terrible number at the time, so I thought, you can have it. Like 28 is good enough. So,
all right. So 20 or 21 would have been your options. Now that single-digit jerseys are in vogue, would you ever consider a single-digit number for your jersey? And if so, which one?
100% I consider it. I would have considered number 7 at the time. Jake Bailey was number 7 on the team, but that was my favorite number. That was my dad's number playing football as well. So that'd have been my number right there.
Now, was your dad a running back too?
He played tight end.
Big old number 7 wearing tight end.
Yeah. That was his number.
That's the best. Another irrelevant question for you here. Europe games, going to Europe, fun or not so much fun?
I never got the opportunity to play in Europe. I know we played in Mexico City. We played there. We played the Raiders there. Was it like 2017 or something like that?
Yeah, it was 2017.
Never got the opportunity to play in Europe, but I've heard for a lot of guys it's fun. I mean, especially if you get out there for the full week, you get to experience a little bit, especially for guys who may have never been there before. I know they do a little shopping, get to sightsee and whatnot. I think it's great for the fans out there as well to kind of bring the NFL to that country, get that experience. Their team may not even necessarily be playing, but they show up to the game, have a good time. They're cheering the entire time because they don't have a dog in the fight. They're just having a good time watching 2 NFL teams play.
It sounds like a great idea. Taking a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, packing them up, getting the diaper bag ready, taking a plane right over to Dusseldorf or wherever they're playing this year.
Oh, no. Not for that long flight.
Or Benadryl.
Yeah.
Could you tell the McCourties apart?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I can definitely tell them apart.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. I mean, I played with Dev for so long without Jason being there, so I feel like it's just so easy for me to tell them apart now.
It's because Jason's a nice one.
They're both nice. Dev likes to pick at people a little bit more, so I can see why more people like Jason.
What's the most ridiculous Gerard Mayo story that you can relate?
Oh, most ridiculous. I have a good story. I remember, I think it was probably towards the year he retired or whatnot. I remember, I think it was like preseason. That he was on like punt team or something, and they like one of the players across from him like Mayo, what you doing on punt team? What you doing on punt team? You used to be the guy, so stuff like that. Just funny hearing that story. He said that's what he kind of knew was it. Like, punt team guy, the guy across from him, like, used to be the man. What you doing on punt team?
I could absolutely see him. All right, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm going into business.
I'm done with that. That's it.
I'm opening up pizza shops. All right. Well, this has been great. This really has been. I enjoyed it a lot. And I got to get you off because 9:30, 30 minutes, 30 clean minutes in May. Maybe you and I should sit down. We'll do a segment. We'll watch that Super Bowl 51 together and roll that stuff together, and you can give commentary.
Let's do it.
I like it. All right, James White, New England Patriots legend. Thanks for taking so much time with us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.